is a live recording of a conversation we held up in Providence a couple of weeks ago as part of the launch of Ultradilute. And it centered around this question of what is the relationship between a notion of creativity, building something from imagination and bringing it into the world, and health. How do we feel in our bodies at those moments when we are creative? Are we more or less healthy if we are acting creatively? Where is that symbiotic relationship tied? Is it in the mind? Is it the body, or both? This conversation was really fascinating, and it featured Joon Oluchi Lee, an award-winning writer and literary arts professor at RISD, and Tracy Steepy, a celebrated jeweler and head of jewelry and metalsmithing at RISD. Tracy has been working with me as her homeopath while in clinical supervision at Academy of Homeopathy Education. So it was a really fantastic moment for us to share with the audience what her treatment looked like in terms of her creative practice. And it was an absolute pleasure to look into the audience and see that we were joined by Tanya Kell, the president of the North American Society of Homeopaths, a practicing homeopath herself for decades, and a fierce advocate for homeopathy in North America. And she joined during the Q&A to provide additional insights and to really help fill out some of the questions that emerged during the group conversation with the audience at the end. We talk about what gets sacrificed in a world designed to extract everything from you, and how you can protect creative practice in spaces built to compress it, and how homeopathy, which is rooted in listening deeply to your individual story, can help you get unstuck so you can be yourself again. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and please sign up for our newsletter to keep up with the latest developments as we build the practice at Ultradilute. Yeah, so this is just a live recording, so thank you for being here. And it's part of the launch of my new homeopathic service called Ultradilute. And today it's kind of amazing to be doing this publicly, and then to have a group conversation about creativity and health with Tracy Steepy and Joon Lee. In full disclosure, Joon is my partner, so thank you for letting me rope you into this. I think it's kind of amazing to have the two of you speaking, because both of you are, well, you're two of the most creative people I know, in the sense that you're always making things, and I get to see the process in real time living with Joon. And this question that has been really guiding my entry into homeopathy now that I'm finishing schooling is the relationship between what it means to build something from your imagination, and how that corresponds to your sense of physical and mental health. And do they feed one another? Do they depend on one another? And what is the best way to maintain an ability to be creative when you're also managing your health? And I think that's what we really, kind of want to dig into today. And this conversation arose out of this observation that I think in many ways the act of creativity is something that happens through health. And you are creative when you are healthy. And one could say that you are healthy when you are creative. And I think that kind of symbiosis is very interesting. So the second thing that I roped Joon into today was to be the moderator of this conversation. So thank you. And Joon is a writer and is in the literature department at RISD, and Tracy Steepy is a jeweler and head of the jewelry and metalsmithing department at RISD. And so should I turn it over, hand you the proverbial microphone, the size,
sure,
shaped like a burrito?
Sure. Well, shall I start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, actually, Tracy, it feels like there's a lot of reverb. Tracy and I, we've been working at RISD, obviously. I mean, we've been co-workers for a long time, but we've also been good friends for a long time too. So we talk about we've spent a lot of time talking about like our respective like creative processes, and when we're doing projects and trying to get things done or trying to like cook up ideas and stuff. So we've talked about that a lot, but we've never kind of talked about it in the context, like this context, in the context of like health or wellness, So this is quite new or interesting. So I guess the first question or kind of first thought that I would want to talk with you about, Tracy, is how would you define health? Like, what does health mean to you? Like, what does that look like or feel like?
I mean, when you pose that question, I assume that you mean healthy.
Yeah,
Healthy, like I assume
health.
you mean on the better side of it.
Yeah,
I mean, I can go both ways. I could talk about it both ways, but I assume on the better side of it. I don't know. I think a part of how I was interested in exploring homeopathic remedies, or in general, is just that, like, I feel like it's getting increasingly difficult. I think I think we live in a society that's like has so much consciousness around health, but then it's really dramatically counterbalanced by the modern condition, which I think is like really pushing people to, I think, to kind of, you have to be really proactive to kind of keep your head above what it even means to be healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it's, you really have to be intentional about putting like some energy towards it. Otherwise, I don't know. For me, I feel like it's a little bit like whack-a-mole, or, it's like I can't have everything in balance, and I don't strive for that because I think you're gonna fail. So I feel like for me, I have to like I can go after certain things, and when those things are in place, then I can go after other things.
So what are those things that are like in place? Because I mean, I think what you say is interesting because like there is like as you said, we're so like in our culture ingrained to almost like overthink about like, oh, am I really well, or am I like really healthy? But that means like kind of, I think this is kind of what you're implying with the whack-a-mole, which is like you're almost like constantly comparing yourself to some like ideal or like some like artificial, I mean, maybe not artificial, but like some external idea of like, oh, you should, if you're healthy, you should be X, Y, and Z, So do you feel like you're subscribing to those, or do you have your own like X, Y, and Z?
I don't know if I would describe it as artificial, but I just think that also like, I mean, if you just think about it through our jobs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the head of a program, so it's a little different in terms of like what I have to manage. But if you just think, we've both been at RISD for like 20 years. Like what it was back in the day versus like what you take home.
Yeah.
At the end of the day is dramatically different now. So, and I feel like in that role, it should be, and you are like taking care of a lot of people. Like you're taking care of faculty, you're taking care of students. So you have to be in a place where like you're balanced enough to be in service.
Yeah.
I think otherwise you're not really showing up for the gig in a way that you're making space for other people to like meet you in the middle. So for me, it's like, it's about how I'm protective of my time, how I have like good boundaries, how I don't, how I don't like spend my energy doing things I'm absolutely not interested in. It's different when you're older too, as you're getting older, like I have to like meal prep. I have to, like there's so much stuff I have to do, I think, to be like a decent person that can show up in those capacities, and when you're tapped out, you can feel it. And it's not like I don't do autopilot. I can do autopilot, but you don't feel good about it. If you're showing up in that way, you don't feel good about it. So on the good days, you have a balance of like moving and exercise and eating well, or I mean whatever. Again, for me it changes, and I like it to change because I like to try on different ways of trying to be in better well-being and just see if it works. And so that's also like the homeopathic, it's difficult for me to measure how it's working, but I think it is doing something that's beneficial for me.
So do you feel like health is when you have like energy to do the things that you need or want to do? Like it's more about like energy? I guess I'm just trying to think about like how
like
you...
other descriptors of it?
Yeah, like I'm just trying to think about like what health, like when you feel healthy, like when do you, like how do you feel it in your body? You're like, oh, I feel healthy, or I'm like, oh, I feel well. Like what's the indicator of that? Do you have it like an indicator? Because for me, I feel like Roddy asked me this question like not a long time ago, but like, you know, when he started doing this work, like the same question, and I had to think about it because I never really think like, oh, when am I like healthy? And I thought for me, it's when I can like forget about my body, like when I can forget that I almost like have a body. I mean, that's not even like kind of like woo like spiritual stuff. It's literally like, you know, like I'm just like writing and I forget that I have to go poop or have to eat or, you know, or like I have a headache or I have, you know, or I'm getting my asthma or whatever, you know, like I'm just like doing stuff, whatever it is. And I'm like, I can totally like forget about my body. Like I don't have to think about it. To me, that's like healthy. But I don't know what, it sounds like you're saying like, so anyway, I don't know. That's kind of like how I feel it. I don't know like how you feel it. Like what you feel when you feel healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like I'm on sabbatical right now. And so it's like, I mean, my two kind of touchstones of comparison are probably somewhere between like what I do in my professional life and now. Like when you're on sabbatical, you can be spending a tremendous amount of time alone. So, which is good. But still, I don't know. I don't want to say like you feel present because that sounds really generic to me. But it's like when I don't feel like I'm elsewhere, like I'm not like I don't know. Also, part of how I came to homeopathy is dealing with menopause, and that has been really new for me. And one of the things that really happened for me in the experience is it was a kind of a brain chatter that I never had before. And that's been really difficult. And now it's getting better and I'm dealing with it. It's not happening anymore. It's not happening in the same way. So for me, I don't know, so much of like what I do, I feel like is really collaborative. Yeah. And on the good days, like I love that. It feels like super generative. But again, like for me, it's like a kind of a showing up. It's like if I can't really be there in a way that I feel like I'm a part of something or I'm moving something around the room, it's not generative and it doesn't, then it just taps you out. Right. So that's where like I never really think I can be balanced, but I think when I'm in a space that I'm feeling like it's really generative, then that feels really good. That for me feels really healthy. And then it's like bigger than you. It's like how you're showing up to things, or you know, that for me feels really healthy.
So then what relationship would you say like being well or being healthy in your body, in your flesh, like what does that have to do, like what's the relationship between that and creativity, or like kind of your creative whatever side of your brain or hand or whatever, like how are those two things related for you think?
I mean, I think you have to be in a good space. I mean, I think if you're really struggling and you're really having a hard time, it's hard to be ambitious.
Like if you're struggling with your health or your body.
If you're struggling with depression, or you're having a lot of mood swings or whatever can be difficult for anybody. I think it's hard to show up again and be generative. Yeah. I think you can show up, and I think it's maybe different for you. I don't know if it's different for you as a writer, like how different formats might lend to different things. But again, like if I'm working with people and that's like you're building something, that's one thing. But then when you're I'm a jeweler by training, so it's a really solitary thing. So you got to be kind of good with being with yourself and being in whatever headspace that you're in. I would say it has a lot to do with it.
Because some people would say, and I sometimes feel this way, where, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, when I hear other people say this, what I'm about to say sounds kind of corny, but it's kind of true, which is like, you know, like, oh, I only feel healthy or well when I'm being creative.
No, I don't.
But I don't know if that's you don't feel that?
I don't feel that.
I feel that sometimes, but that's so corny. I feel like, isn't it? It's kind of corny to be like, that's why I'm saying it this way. Like, I'm only really healthy when I'm being creative.
I mean, I think that I just like, I can hear you say that, and I don't think it's corny. But you know, like there's the construct of the tortured artist, but there's also the people that are like, oh my god, like you get to be an artist, and you're like, yeah, but there's no unicorns and fairies in my studio. Like you still have to like show up. You have to like make things and be like, is this any good? You're self-critical. You know, you're hard on yourself. It's difficult. It can be really difficult to be buoyant and have some buoyancy in those spaces if you're not kind of okay. You know? I mean, I think like you can make good work when you're suffering and depressed, don't get me wrong. But I also think, you know, being self-critical and all of that is really hard if you're already like not being kind to yourself. I mean, everybody needs like a little studio cheerleader to pop up, and if you got to be that for yourself, then you have to be in a good place.
I know. I mean, I think the corny. I don't know. I think the corny thing becomes when it's like, oh, my practice is everything. Like nothing else matters. So if that's good, then like who cares? You know. I don't feel that way. Because I'm not corny, but also because like I feel like it's the forgetting thing for me, you know. It's just like when I'm like writing something and it's like really going, like I'm like really on a roll, then it's just like, you know, then it's not even as extreme as like, oh, I forget to eat or something, but it's like literally like, you know, like I just don't notice like if I am like sick or something, let's say like I have a cold or something, if I'm like really on a roll, I don't really notice it. It doesn't really matter. So it kind of, sometimes when it's like really good, when the creativity is really good, it can kind of like overcome the physical. For me anyway. I don't know that it's like that for everybody,
but I think just like in just saying practice. Right. For me, that takes it out of this idea about whether it's corny or not corny. It's like, but a practice isn't romantic, and I say this in terms of like being an academic. Like it's very weird to be very busy, and then all of a sudden you have this window, and they're like, okay, now be creative. Like, it just doesn't really work like that. Right. So this idea of like a practice is like it's a verb. You know, this idea that like. You continue to show up. You're gonna have days that you feel like you don't wanna, and that maybe you're not in a good space. But like that's what discipline is, or that's what having a practice does. You can't kind of schedule the unicorns and the fairies. Right, the unicorns and the fairies. No, but I just think that it's not romantic. It's a kind of it's the things you do.
I agree. It's totally not romantic. And it shouldn't be. That, I mean, I know. I overuse
that's maybe another podcast.
Right? It is another. It probably is another one. But like thinking about discipline and stuff, and you're mentioning like, oh, you know, especially in like an academic context, your institution or whoever is like, oh, do all this stuff, be a teacher, be a scholar, whatever, and then they say, oh, go be creative. I want to think about, I mean, maybe you and I can think about this together a little bit, because it's like, I feel like in the world in general doesn't really support like creativity as like a necessity or instinct. I don't mean just like money wise or, you know, like monetarily, capital or something, but it's just like, it doesn't support that as like as a way of being. You know, not just like way of making money, but like a way of being. So
in what way?
Like I feel like work is always, I mean, work is kind of always defined as something that's like necessary, and like you know, to be creative you need like room and like space to just like imagine and like wander mentally, you know, or physically, you know. And I feel like our world doesn't really like support that, I feel like. So I wonder, I don't know if you agree with that, or if you do agree, then like I wonder how you manage to kind of, what kind of like resources, internal or otherwise, you kind of find to like get the creative juices flowing, or like have a creative life, or have creativity be like a central part of your life. You know, I don't know if that's maybe too abstract or something.
I mean, I couldn't be at RISD in the way that I am without feeling like in and of itself it has to be a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, RISD in
you
some
mean
ways...
being at, like, doing your work?
Yeah, like I
work.
think about I think about being the head of the program creatively.
Right.
But it's so collaborative because you're working with faculty and you're working with the students, and on the good days you can't take for granted. Like on the good days you're showing up with someone to like help them with their practice and help them follow the thread that they don't even know might be, you know, the strength of their work. And when there's that kind of trust and you're doing it, like it's amazing. Right. And you can see like when people like turn the corner with their work, it's amazing. So you got to hold on to that. But unfortunately, like, you know what's behind the curtain of the job, you know? And so it's to not let the students or hopefully too much of your colleagues understand like what's behind the curtain. But I think that's a part of your job too. That's true. So I find it really creative, but I feel like you have to build it in a way that it like leans into that. I think the modern condition is designed to in some ways go against. I really do. And I think it's a really hard time right now for a lot of people to feel like they're in a space that's very open and accessible, but also isolating.
Yeah, because it's like when people misappropriate or misuse, in my opinion, like capitalism as an idea, you know, it's like, you know, like your ability to just sit around and like write a poem. It's just like how I said it, like you just sit around and write a poem, or you sit around and draw something, and it's like not essential, you know, it's not like not contributing towards whatever, like the flow of life. It's just like leisure activity or something, you know? And that's what I mean by like it doesn't support it. I feel like if your work is to just like sit around and write a poem, they're like, why are you sitting around and writing a poem when there's like people laboring, you know? The ways in which like creativity is often like aligned to like extraneous activity or luxury or something, you know, or fluff. I don't know. That's what I was kind of like thinking about. But I think like what you were saying, like kind of siphoning that into like other aspects of one's life, that it's like, you know, like leading the department, like collaborating with your students and thinking about that as like a generative or like kind of creative realm, I think is right, and that's good. But
there has to be like permission to kind of, I don't know, leave and then bring something back with you in a certain way. I don't know, like you know me, I'm very like involved in spaces, like physical spaces. I'm having a hard time like not turning things into apartments. But it's like I should be making jewelry in some way, like that's the brain chatter, or like, because that's my practice, you know. It's like, but I'm not. I'm doing, so I don't know, like at the end of the day, like I'm not gonna beat myself up about it. It's like ways in which like I'm still exercising, I'm still building, I'm like in it in the same way. You know, but it's just, I don't know, it's transferable and it moves around the room. But then I want to do things like Ben is doing, and it's like, could it be an artist residency? Like, could artists stay here? Could it merge with RISD? So, you know, it's like, again, like you have to be involved in what you're involved in that feeds you. But again, for me, it's like, that can be really selfish or self-satisfying, but like when it goes out and it can be connective tissue in other spaces or with other people or in the community, like that's where I enjoy it. So but if it is just a poem to write the poem,
Yeah.
you still have to be doing that to
Yeah.
get it out, or
Yeah.
to have it be something that
Yeah.
is greater than the sum of the parts. But
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. Yeah.
But it'd be like if somebody said, like, okay, go do you, but just don't be creative.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. You'd be like, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I think like what you said about like staying, like paying attention to like what's feeding you, that's important right there.
I mean, I was wondering, like, I mean, just listening to the both of you talk, I was thinking about, these questions of like where health fits into however you define creativity, like, but like, where are those moments where, like, have you seen situations where you were not able to like actually be creative in your work because of a health problem? Like, have you experienced that, or?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's, well, the big thing that happened, like maybe this was 2017, I think. So that was like 8 years ago, I guess. Like, I just like out of the blue had like totally bad like asthma attack where I was just like wheezing and couldn't catch my breath. And we actually had to go to the emergency room like in the middle of the night, and and they like gave me like the respirator or whatever, and then they gave me a big packet and they were like, oh, take it to your general practitioner and blah blah blah, which I did. And I mean, that really like obviously blocked like just my life or my living, my body. So it was like really blocking a lot of stuff. And and it was hard. I mean, I don't know, should I talk more? I mean, it's like, it was hard because I went to like my general practitioner, and I thought, well, like, he'll help me figure out what this is so I don't have these attacks anymore. But it was like, he just like prescribed like an inhaler, and then that was like it. And then I just kept like puffing it, and I was like using it so much, I went back to him and I was like, I'm like using this like 4 times a week, it's just like, and he was like, oh, you shouldn't be using it that much. And I was like, well, you didn't tell me. So then he put me on a different one, a different inhaler, but without like asking or without figuring out like what was not even what was causing it, but like what, like the thought that like, oh, there might be something we could do to like remove the symptom altogether so that I can live seamlessly, as I said, so I didn't have to think about my body all the time. Like, that didn't happen, So I guess, well, that's when I saw the first homeopath.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's actually the first time I had even been exposed to homeopathy, was when you started.
That's when you started studying.
Yeah. It was when that happened to you.
Yeah.
And But I think what's different, like in your story, that like if you were to go to the doctor, they're just going to give you an inhaler. And I mean, what attracted me to homeopathy actually was like this idea that there would be a way to treat, that would treat the symptoms, but would also actually try to remove the cause of the symptoms, over time.
Yeah.
And I think it's different. Like if you're like if you're a painter and you can't paint, and you go to the doctor, they're like, well, just take this inhaler.
Right.
But I think if you went to a homeopath, they would actually like want to know what it is that's like blocking you from being able
painting.
to,
Or
literally,
not
like,
painting.
or not painting,
Yeah.
or and there would be like a real concern about that as like a part of the whole process.
I mean, I had, as you know, I was like a little bit skeptical at first, and skeptical is too hard, but like, well, what I realized was like actually during the time when I went to the homeopath, and then a couple years afterwards, like during COVID and everything, I realized like when I went to the doctor and talked to him, a lot of it was just like prescription. I mean, he wasn't a pharmacist, he was like a doctor of internal medicine, but a lot of it was just like, here's a prescription for whatever, And I realized like, oh wow, like a lot of it is just about like medicine and like big pharma. And then I thought, like the homeopathy was like very, like when you explained it to me, I was like, this is like I don't know what that means, or I don't know how it works exactly. But then I thought, I don't really know how the inhaler's working either, or I don't know how the doctor is coming up with these decisions either. Not that I need to know like exact, like chemistry wise or whatever, but like I was taking like a leap of faith with the doctor, like with the normal doctor, I'm always taking a leap of faith, you know? So it was the same kind of leap of faith I was taking with homeopathy, where I was like, well, I don't know exactly how it's working, but if it's like making my body better, if it's flattening the symptom without like medicine or without like chemical interference, then that's good for me. I mean, I don't know. So,
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I'm really excited to think about homeopathy from the standpoint of its role in like human creativity, is because I think it actually is able to like address a lot of the challenges that people who think creatively, are able to, that they face. And that's everything from jewelry to to writing.
But can I ask you?
Yeah.
Like, so this is specifically about homeopathy, but it's like, if Tracy went to you and was like, well, she is a client, but
I like them third person and I'm real.
And you're real. And hypothetical Tracy was like, oh, I have to make this necklace, but I can't bring myself to do it. Like, I'm totally blocked. I can't do it. Like, that was her symptom. Like, would you be able to help her if she said, this is kind of going back to the example you were saying. I think that's,
how
would you help her?
Yeah, I think that would be what I find so valuable in homeopathy. And I think that like in that situation, you would really want to find out like what is the process of making. What does that mean? Like a lot of the conversation. So homeopathy starts with an intake conversation. So a lot of that conversation would be around like what is like, it wouldn't be just about that blockage. It would be about like what does that mean to you? What does it feel like? What does it feel like in your body when you can't do it? Like what is the do you have physical sensations when you're trying to make jewelry? And really, but it would really be built around trying to understand like what that sensation, what that feels like in the body and in the mind, and then hopefully that could be that would open up ideally a larger picture of like what the totality of the issue is.
That conversation, having done that conversation, it is like you're asking very direct questions, but they're very nuanced. Like what you're asking is very nuanced, I think. And I'm just saying that from my experience, I think that like at the end of it, when you ask like what are the 3 measures that you want to like return to and like map, that was really helpful for me because that was my measure. It wasn't your measure. Or it wasn't like something that you were saying like this is what you got to watch. It was like, for me, what do I want to pay attention to after having done this? And that felt really, it just felt good because that's coming through my filter and it's coming through what I'm trying to not reconcile, but what you're trying to push against. I would also just say, like, you should have another podcast, and this is my movie maybe, about homeopathic remedies and dreaming. Because the way that that's the biggest measure of what I was like, oh, it's like totally changing my dreams, and it's changing my sleep. And I know I was like struggling with sleep again because that was one of the symptoms that I was dealing with menopause, but it really changed my dreams dramatically. And that was interesting. And that was like the one thing that I was like, okay, I can't attribute this to anything else. That it's not my diet, it's not my exercise. Like I've been living in my body for some time now. And then that was the one thing I was like, wow, that's very interesting. So I knew I was doing something like subconsciously, but
I mean, and that's another beautiful thing about homeopathy, I think, is that it actually sees the mind and the body as being so deeply intertwined, and not, not necessarily even from a spiritual perspective, but just like literally, like these two things have a deep impact on one another. And usually when one starts getting unblocked, then the other will start moving as well. And so that's not uncommon, actually, what you're describing.
Yeah.
No, it was good to hear that too, because I was like, I gotta talk to Roddy. Something's going on. It's like you can't prove it in some ways to be true, but you can see, you can have the markers. And you can say, oh, these markers are changing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
I was kind of curious because I don't know a ton about homeopathy, but what was like the regimen like when you were working with Tracy? Like, because it's interesting because like to hear it not specified, it kind of sounds like therapy, like talk therapy or something. But I'm curious, like, was there something that you were taking that was like changing your dreams?
I mean, well, first of all, I'll just say that like I haven't done any other kind of medication, like trying to deal with like some issues that I was having. And I had a partner that his sister studied homeopathic medicine. So my partner was always doing remedies, and I was always around that. So I was very comfortable with that already. So I think that was a good precursor for me. And then when I found out Roddy was training to practice, it was kind of that collision point for me where I think I was like, I had like a really hard winter. The menopause was, and I mean, I'm not out of it, but it was really hard on me in ways that I think Perry was even harder. And that was when I had a partner. So it's like, sorry. It's like, because you kind of feel like you're going crazy in some ways, or at least I did. And it was really kind of out of control. Or I felt like I really wasn't myself. And that's okay. But so then I was talking to Roddy and then found out that he was training. So so then we met, we had the intake. And in some ways, and I've done my fair share of therapy, so yes, I would say like the intake was very, it was good that I feel comfortable with you, because I think it was a very like kind of vulnerable situation or conversation, so it went pretty deep. But it felt like that it was good for you to hear some of those things.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know what I don't know what the cocktail is that he's mixing, but he says you get this and this is how you take it, and I say okay, and I do it, and then I'm just trying to pay attention to paying attention, and see like are certain things changing. And
I was gonna say like the cocktail. I'm not mixing the cocktail. It's so I mean essentially what we do is we just try to get a sense of, through all the details that the client provides, like what is this total picture of like their mental state, their physical problems, and then really treating them with equal care. And sometimes the physical elements are just, front and center, and that just becomes very clear. And then other times the mental or emotional components can kind of, round that out. But at the end of that, I essentially have a picture, a map, that's written in terms of kind of what this looks like. And the idea is that there's an element in nature, there's an element in the world that matches that specific picture for that individual. And then, you cross-check that through literature, and you make sure that this actually kind of adds up. And then at that point, I would just send an email to Tracy and say, like, here's what I'm recommending. And then she can order it from an FDA-regulated pharmacy so that the production process is fully monitored. And then there's a certain way that you take it over time. And then we just track those symptoms. And then, ideally you start to see progress in a few months. And then you shift things as you need to. And then it's an ongoing process. But I would like to think that I could, ideally get to the point where, that wouldn't be necessary with a client. So, at some point we'll have to, it would be great if we didn't have to, work together anymore.
It would be great. No, I'm just kidding. But but it's also like, it's not like your leg's bothering you and then Roddy's like, how's your leg doing? You know, it's more like, you know, because he said like, what do you want the things for me to check back in on, and like an exam, you know. So for me, like one of those was like productivity, because like I would be having a hard time just with the loop or being hard on myself, where it'd be like, I can't, I get a lot of stuff done. I'm very productive, but I was just feeling so tapped, like just so tapped out, and I couldn't like self-generate it. I couldn't. Yeah, I was just burnt out, you know, and I was burnt out. I mean, there is that just generally for a lot of people. So. Yeah, so it's not, I feel like the markers, at least, maybe for other people they're different, but for me, they weren't the physical. It was more like these things that I was just like, why can't I get to this like I used to? Or like, why does this feel like such a struggle?
Yeah, and I think that's where homeopathy is really well suited to help, is in those situations that don't fall into like really clear, you know, markers where there is some blurriness there in terms of, you know, how these things relate, and it lends itself to that, which so I'm glad that it's helping. And yeah, anything else? Yeah. I don't know why I'm just looking at you, Ben. Please.
Well, one thing I was curious about, I'm going to use a word that may not be the right word, but I was thinking about what your thoughts are on the role of like placebo, or like using, you know, sometimes like if you just like focus on like the taste of a cup of tea, it can like help you in different ways. And I wonder sometimes with practices like this, how much is there an assumed or direct link between the specific cocktail versus the cocktail being a catalyst for people to focus their mind and to kind of like put their bodies in sort of like a comfortable room from which, so in that case it's not a placebo, because it's like, it is a catalyst, but I just don't know a lot about the practice in terms of like, I'm having trouble making a painting, here's some dandelion, like I don't know what that does, but I know like aroma, and it's like set and setting or something like that.
No, I mean, that's a really good question. And, you know, and I think, well, first of all, there's a whole, you know, there are reams of research that actually show that homeopathy performs better than placebo. And there's the Homeopathy Research Institute in the UK that has a lot of up-to-date information on some of those meta-analyses and so forth. But I mean, I also don't think that one should underestimate the power of placebo either, you know. And I mean, I think that I'm not saying, I feel for a number of reasons that homeopathy performs better than placebo by far. And in fact, like when you look at the efficacy of treatment between conventional medicine and homeopathic medicine, when you compare meta-analyses over the last 11 years, you'll find that a homeopathic treatment shows a 42% positive efficacy rate, which doesn't sound that high, but in fact is comparable to conventional medicine, which shows typically a 45% positive efficacy rate. So there, you know, you're already, I feel like, comparing a comparable rate of positive efficacy. And then also, and this is very interesting, there have been recent studies that have shown that homeopathy used in plant production and in agriculture perform better. And so I don't think like, you know, the wheat is like, oh, I'm thinking better, I'm gonna feel better, you know. Like, so I feel like that kind of like discounts like the placebo effect in homeopathy as well. And then also for animals, there are farmers in the UK who use homeopathic treatment for their cattle, and there have been studies that show that that's, you know, helpful to them as well. So I think it's it's definitely more than placebo. So I just, you know, to just be clear, I mean, I think there's a lot of research that shows that it's more than placebo. But I sometimes feel like placebo gets a bad rap too. So I want to kind of like, you know, because there's an element of that I think that can be positive as well. And while it's, you know, I don't think one should rely on it fully, to acknowledge that it has a positive force, I think is, you know, just a rational, you know, evaluation as well. So.
But it can also go both ways. Like, I haven't had that experience, but I know people that have taken remedies and gotten really sick, and that, like, that's supposed to be working. So I didn't have a physically, like, negative reaction. Yeah. But that can also happen too. So I don't know. It's a super interesting question.
Well, it's medicine, you know. Yeah. And I think there are good practitioners, and there are some practitioners that you know, have maybe a different, you know, approach to it. But I think with good training, you can limit the negative as much as possible, and you don't want that at all. And that's, you know, but there's just variance in the world of homeopathy, just like there would be in every world. So.
I didn't want to breeze past the word catalyst, because that's exactly what's happening in homeopathy.
Yeah, and could you say more?
So there's lots of controversy about what's a homeopathic medicine, how does it work, what's the process in the body, whatever. And it all boils down to, it's a catalyst. You have everything you need within yourself to heal. And sometimes you lose your way or you get tired. And the homeopathic remedy is not coming in and taking over as drugs would and forcing any sort of process that is not natural and inherent to you. It's simply a catalyst for your higher purpose, your fullest expression. And we see health in a broader context. So we see the desire to help, the interconnectedness of all people as measures of health, not just the absence of the diagnosed pathology.
Thank you. And I mean, we're lucky to have Tanya here today as the president of the North American Society of Homeopathy, and also practicing homeopath. So thank you for helping fill out this question.
Thanks. Yeah, but you got smart friends. I just wanted to acknowledge it.
It's just an interesting moment. I mean, it's really good to hear you say that too. I don't know. I just think it's such an interesting moment to be thinking about all of this, where like everything's happening right now in the government with like healthcare. And I do feel like we are in a time that's like super exciting, and you can feel empowered that you have other options of the ways that you can, like, you know, holistically try to put some things together. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not how it should be, but I feel like I like to like try things on, because it's so personal what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So I don't know, like for me, it's been really helpful to just like try something for 3 months. Just commit to it for like 3 months and see if it is like catalyzing something, bringing something else forward that is just good to pay attention to.
And it's like, why not have a selection of options, you know, and especially if you're seeing efficacy, and if you're able to acknowledge that efficacy, you know, why not fund it? Why not make it available? Why not, and of course, study it and be, you know, and with a rigorous, you know, approach, but at the same time, making it available, you know, just seems like an obvious, you know, obvious thing to do. So, yeah. Great. I think that's it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Yeah.